First contact and cultural exchange. The sun had barely peeked over the horizon when Dr. Lydia Chen received the call that would change her life and potentially the course of human history. As the lead xenobiologist at the United Earth Space Agency, UESA, she had spent years preparing for this moment, but nothing could have truly readied her for the reality of first contact. "Dr. Chen, they're here," came the breathless voice of her assistant, Marco. "A ship just appeared in orbit. It's like nothing we've ever seen." Lydia's heart raced as she rushed to the command center, her mind a whirlwind of questions and possibilities. The atmosphere in the room was electric, a mix of excitement and trepidation palpable among the gathered scientists and officials. On the main screen, a vessel hung against the backdrop of Earth's blue curve. Its form defied conventional design, seeming to shift and flow like liquid metal. As Lydia watched, transfixed, a message appeared on the communications panel. "They're requesting to land," announced the comms officer, her voice tinged with disbelief. Within hours, a delegation from the ship had touched down at a hastily prepared landing site. Lydia stood at the forefront of the welcoming committee, her heart pounding as the alien craft's portal arised open. The beings that emerged were as extraordinary as their ship. Tall, graceful creatures with iridescent skin that seemed to ripple with colors. Their eyes, 3 of them, arranged in a triangle, regarded the humans with unmistakable intelligence and curiosity. Communication proved to be the first hurdle. Despite years of hypothetical scenarios and linguistic models, nothing had prepared them for the aliens' method of conversation, a complex interplay of color changes, subtle movements, and low-frequency vibrations. It took days of intense work, but Lydia and her team finally made a breakthrough. Using a combination of advanced AI translation algorithms and good old-fashioned intuition, they established a rudimentary form of communication. The aliens, they learned, called themselves the Lumina. They were explorers from a distant star system, drawn to Earth by the radio signals that had been inadvertently broadcasting humanity's existence to the cosmos for decades. As the days turned into weeks, a tentative cultural exchange began. The Lumina shared glimpses of their advanced technology, devices that manipulated gravity, energy sources that seemed to defy the laws of thermodynamics as humans understood them. In return, Lydia and her team introduced the aliens to the rich tapestry of human culture, art, music, literature, and the complex history that had shaped their species. But it was during a routine medical examination that the most startling discovery was made. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, the chief medical officer, had been conducting basic scans of both species for comparison when she noticed something peculiar about the human readings. "Lydia, you need to see this," Elena called, her eyes wide as she stared at the holographic display. Lydia hurried over, followed by one of the Lumina scientists, a being they had come to know as Zar-El. The display showed a time-lapse of cellular activity from both species. "Watch the human cells," Elena instructed, pointing to one side of the screen. As they observed, a small injury was introduced to the sample. The human cells immediately began to mobilize, repairing the damage with astonishing speed. In contrast, the Lumina cells showed no such response. Zar-El's skin rippled with patterns of deep blue and gold, an expression of intense interest and surprise. They had learned. The alien turned its triocular gaze to Lydia, its color patterns forming a question they had come to recognize. "How?" Lydia found herself at a loss for words. What seemed perfectly normal to her, the body's natural healing process, was apparently extraordinary to their interstellar visitors. "It's just how we are," she finally managed, realizing as she spoke how inadequate the explanation was. The discovery sparked a flurry of activity. The Lumina, it turned out, had no natural healing abilities of their own. Injuries and illnesses were managed through advanced medical technology, but the idea of the body repairing itself was utterly foreign to them. As news of the revelation spread, both human and Lumina scientists clamored for more information. Lydia found herself at the center of a whirlwind of questions, experiments, and ethical debates. Some saw the potential for groundbreaking medical advancements that could benefit both species. Others worried about the implications of sharing such intimate biological information with an alien civilization they still knew so little about. Lydia wrestled with these concerns as she prepared for a crucial meeting with the Lumina science team. As she entered the conference room, she couldn't help but feel the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. The decisions made here could shape the future of interspecies relations for generations to come. Zar-El and several other Lumina were already present, their skin shimmering with patterns that Lydia had come to recognize as a mix of excitement and apprehension. She took a deep breath, reminding herself of the incredible opportunity before them, the chance to bridge the gap between two vastly different forms of life. As the meeting began, Lydia knew that they were standing on the precipice of a new era. Whatever came next would be a testament to the power of curiosity, the strength of the human spirit, and the unifying force of scientific discovery. With a mix of trepidation and exhilaration, she began to speak, ready to take the next step into this brave new world of interstellar cooperation. The medical mystery. The conference room hummed with an energy that transcended species. Lydia stood before the assembled team of human and Lumina scientists, her heart racing with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. The holographic display behind her showed magnified images of human cells, their natural repair processes captured in mesmerizing detail. "What you're seeing," Lydia began, her voice steady despite her nerves, "is the human body's innate ability to heal itself. From minor cuts to broken bones, our cells work tirelessly to repair damage and fight off infections." The luminous skin rippled with patterns of deep blue and gold, their expression of intense fascination. Zar-El, who had become something of a liaison between the two species, stepped forward. Its three eyes blinked in sequence as it addressed the group. "This capacity for self-repair," Zar-El's translator conveyed, "it is beyond our comprehension. In our long history of space exploration, we have never encountered a sentient species with such an ability. It challenges everything we thought we knew about biology." Dr. Elena Rodriguez, the chief medical officer, joined Lydia at the front of the room. "We've only scratched the surface of understanding the full implications," she added. "Our preliminary studies suggest that this healing factor could potentially be adapted to benefit the Lumina physiology." A ripple of excitement passed through the alien contingent, their skin flickering with rapid patterns of light. But not all reactions were positive. Dr. Yusuf Ali, the lead ethicist on the human team, raised a hand in caution. "While the potential benefits are undeniable," he interjected, "we must consider the ethical implications. Sharing such intimate biological information with an alien species, no offense intended to our Lumina friends, carries significant risks. We know so little about their society, their values, their intentions." Lydia nodded, acknowledging the validity of his concerns. "You're right, Yusuf. We're in uncharted territory here, but I believe the potential for mutual benefit outweighs the risks. If we can find a way to adapt our healing abilities to Lumina physiology, think of the doors it could open for both our species." The debate raged on for hours, with passionate arguments from both sides. The Lumina, for their part, seemed both eager to learn and willing to share their own advanced medical technologies in exchange. As the meeting drew to a close, a tentative agreement was reached. A joint research project would be established, with strict ethical guidelines and oversight from both species. Over the next few weeks, the combined team of human and Lumina scientists worked tirelessly. They set up a state-of-the-art laboratory, merging human medical equipment with the Lumina's advanced scanning technology. Lydia found herself constantly amazed by the aliens' approach to science. Their thought processes were so different, yet complementary to human methods. One particularly memorable breakthrough came during a late-night research session. Lydia and Zar-El were examining cellular samples under a quantum microscope, a marvel of Lumina technology that allowed them to observe molecular processes in real time. "Look at this," Lydia exclaimed, pointing to a cluster of cells on the display. The way these stem cells are differentiating, it's like they're communicating with each other, coordinating the healing process. Zar-El's skin pulsed with patterns of green and silver, an expression of sudden insight. It reminds me of our quantum entanglement communication, the alien mused. Perhaps there is a connection we have not yet considered. This observation led to a whole new avenue of research, combining human cellular biology with Lumina quantum theory. The potential applications seemed endless, from accelerated healing techniques to entirely new forms of communication. But as the research progressed, new challenges emerged. Some human cells, when exposed to Lumina biological material, exhibited unexpected behaviors. In one alarming incident, a culture of skin cells began replicating at an unprecedented rate, forming structures unlike anything the scientists had seen before. Dr. Rodriguez quarantined the samples immediately, her face grave as she addressed the team. "We're pushing into unknown territory here," she warned. "The interaction between our biologies is more complex than we anticipated. We need to proceed with extreme caution." The incident sparked renewed debate about the ethics and safety of the project. Dr. Ali called for a temporary halt to the experiments, arguing that they were moving too fast without fully understanding the consequences. The Lumina scientists, while concerned, were eager to continue, seeing the unexpected results as a fascinating new area of study. Lydia found herself caught in the middle, balancing her scientific curiosity against her responsibility to ensure the safety of both species. After much deliberation, she proposed a compromise. They would continue the research, but with additional safety protocols and a more measured pace. As the project entered its second month, the team prepared for their most ambitious experiment yet. They had developed a method to introduce human stem cells into Lumina tissue samples, hoping to observe how the alien biology would respond to the human healing factor. The night before the experiment, Lydia couldn't sleep. She stood at the window of her quarters, gazing up at the stars. Somewhere out there was the Lumina homeworld, a place she could scarcely imagine. She thought about the enormity of what they were attempting, not just advancing medical science, but bridging the gap between two entirely different forms of life. Her thoughts were interrupted by a soft chime, a message from Zar-El. The Lumina scientist wanted to meet, apparently sharing Lydia's restlessness on the eve of their groundbreaking experiment. They'd met in the observation dome, a transparent bubble atop the research facility that offered a panoramic view of the night sky. Zar-El's skin glowed softly in the darkness, patterns of blue and silver reflecting its contemplative mood. "Lydia," the alien began, its translator conveying a tone of solemnity, "I must confess something. My people, we are not merely curious about your healing abilities. We are in desperate need of them." Lydia felt a chill run down her spine. "What do you mean?" Zar-El's patterns shifted to deep, mournful purples. "Our species is dying. A genetic degradation, accumulated over millennia of technological dependence. We have lost the ability to adapt, to change, to heal. Your people, with your remarkable resilience, may be our last hope." The revelation left Lydia reeling. It cast their entire mission in a new light, raising the stakes beyond anything she had imagined. As the first light of dawn began to creep over the horizon, she knew that the coming day's experiment would be more than a scientific endeavor. It could be the first step in saving an entire civilization. With this new knowledge weighing heavily on her mind, Lydia steeled herself for the challenges ahead. The path forward was uncertain, fraught with scientific hurdles and ethical dilemmas. But as she watched the sun rise alongside her alien colleague, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. Whatever the outcome, they were on the brink of making history, not just for humanity, but for life in the cosmos. Collaboration and understanding. The morning of the groundbreaking experiment arrived with a palpable tension in the air. The research facility buzzed with activity as human and Lumina scientists made final preparations. Lydia, her mind still reeling from Zar-El's revelation, found herself viewing her alien colleagues in a new light. Their eagerness, which she had attributed to scientific curiosity, now seemed tinged with a quiet desperation. As the team assembled in the main laboratory, Lydia cleared her throat, drawing all eyes, human and alien alike, to her. "Before we begin," she said, her voice steady despite her inner turmoil, "I believe there's something we all need to discuss." She glanced at Zar-El, who nodded almost imperceptibly, its skin rippling with patterns of solemn blue. With the luminous scientist's silent permission, Lydia shared what she had learned about the aliens' dire situation. The revelation sent shockwaves through the human contingent. Dr. Ali, the ethicist, was the first to speak up. "This changes everything," he said, his brow furrowed. "We're no longer just exploring scientific curiosities. We're potentially holding the fate of an entire species in our hands." Dr. Rodriguez nodded, her expression a mix of concern and determination. "It also means we can't afford to take half measures. If we're going to do this, we need to commit fully." The debate that followed was intense but surprisingly brief. Despite the increased pressure, or perhaps because of it, the team found a new sense of unity and purpose. They agreed to proceed with the experiment, but with heightened precautions and a renewed commitment to transparency between both species. As they initiated the procedure, introducing human stem cells into Lumina tissue samples, the laboratory fell into a hushed silence. All eyes were fixed on the quantum microscope's display, watching for any sign of interaction between the two alien biologies. For several tense minutes, nothing seemed to happen. Then, almost imperceptibly at first, the human cells began to move. They approached the Lumina cells cautiously, as if sensing the foreign nature of their new environment. Suddenly, one of the human stem cells made contact with a Lumina cell. The reaction was immediate and astonishing. The Lumina cell, which had been inert and seemingly lifeless, began to pulse with a faint luminescence. "Look!" Lydia exclaimed, pointing to the display. "The Lumina cell is responding to the stem cell's signals." Zar-El's skin flashed with patterns of bright gold, an expression of pure joy. "It's accepting the human cellular instructions," the alien scientist marveled. "This is unprecedented." Over the next few hours, they watched in awe as the human stem cells gradually influenced the Lumina tissue. The alien cells, which had previously shown no signs of regeneration or adaptation, began to exhibit healing properties similar to human cells. However, the process was far from perfect. Some Lumina cells rejected the human influence, while others mutated in unexpected ways. It was clear that they had a long way to go before this could be safely applied to living Lumina subjects. As the initial excitement of the breakthrough faded, the real work began. The joint team threw themselves into analyzing the results, working tirelessly to understand the complex interplay between human and Lumina biology. Weeks turned into months, and the research facility became a crucible of innovation. Human and Lumina scientists worked side by side, their different perspectives and methodologies complementing each other in ways no one could have predicted. Lydia found herself constantly amazed by the Lumina approach to problem-solving. Their quantum-based technology allowed for insights that would have been impossible with human science alone. In turn, the human capacity for intuitive leaps and out-of-the-box thinking led to breakthroughs that baffled and delighted their alien colleagues. One particularly memorable moment came during a late-night brainstorming session. Dr. Rodriguez, bleary-eyed from hours of work, offhandedly mentioned how human skin cells sometimes form scars as a quick fix instead of fully regenerating. Zar-El, who had been quietly observing, suddenly lit up with patterns of bright green. "That's it," the alien exclaimed. "We've been trying to force full regeneration, but what if we aim for an intermediate step first?" This insight led to a new approach, focusing on teaching Lumina cells to form protective structures similar to human scars. It wasn't a complete solution, but it was a significant step forward in granting the aliens some measure of physical resilience. As their research progressed, the implications of their work began to extend far beyond medicine. The deep collaboration between humans and Lumina led to advancements in various fields, from new forms of energy production inspired by cellular metabolism to communication technologies that merged quantum entanglement with meteorological principles. But perhaps the most profound changes were cultural. As news of the project spread, both Earth and the Lumina homeworld saw a surge of interest in interspecies cooperation. Schools began offering cynobiology courses, artists created works celebrating the beauty of biological diversity, and philosophers engaged in heated debates about the nature of life in the cosmos. Not everyone was enthusiastic, of course. There were those on both worlds who feared the implications of such close collaboration with an alien species. Protesters picketed the research facility, claiming that humanity was risking its unique identity, or that the Lumina were secretly planning to exploit Earth's resources. Lydia and her team found themselves not just at the forefront of scientific discovery, but also as reluctant diplomats and public figures. They gave interviews, wrote articles, and participated in debates, always striving to convey the importance and potential of their work. As the project entered its second year, they finally reached a point where they felt confident enough to attempt a clinical trial on a living Lumina subject. The volunteer was an elder of their species, already suffering from the genetic degradation that plagued their people. The day of the procedure was tense. Lydia stood beside the Lumina medical team, ready to offer guidance, but knowing that this was ultimately in their hands. As they introduced the specially cultivated human-inspired cells into the elder's body, everyone held their breath. For several agonizing minutes, there was no visible change. Then, slowly but surely, the elder's skin began to take on a healthier sheen. Its patterns, which had been dull and sluggish, began to flow with renewed vigor. When the elder opened its eyes and sat up, moving with a strength it hadn't possessed in years, the room erupted in cheers. Zar-El's skin blazed with patterns so bright, they were almost painful to look at. An expression of unbridled joy and hope. In that moment, as Lydia watched her Lumina colleagues celebrate, she was struck by a profound realization. They had set out to solve a medical mystery, to unravel the secrets of human biology. But in the process, they had achieved something far greater. They had proven that life, in all its diverse forms, could find common ground. That the gulf between stars was no match for the unifying power of curiosity, compassion, and scientific endeavor. As the Lumina elder turned its gaze to her, its 3 eyes shimmering with gratitude, Lydia felt a sense of purpose and connection that transcended species. They had taken the first steps on a journey that would reshape both their worlds, opening up possibilities that neither humans nor Lumina had dared to imagine. The path ahead was still long and undoubtedly filled with challenges. But as Lydia looked around at her team, human and Lumina working side by side, united in their quest for knowledge and understanding, she knew that together, they were ready to face whatever the universe had in store.